Good morning. I focused on the final words of that reading as I prepared for my chat today. And you will receive the power, and you will be my witnesses. Ends of the earth. If I were going to the ends of the earth, I would meet strangers and discover new cultures. I would meet people who probably would not know my heritage nor my culture. And they might want to harm me because we are different. We may not speak a common language. We may have different religious beliefs, different political beliefs. But we know that the apostles faithfully followed Jesus's instructions and went to lands far away. I am here today to share my story because we have recently experienced increasing violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders and others. These are not new incidents of violence. In 2020, the Anti-Defamation League identified a significant increase in verbal harassment against Asian Americans. They said verbal harassment is a precursor to physical violence. Sadly, we have experienced just that. Increasing acts of violence right here, right now, in Oakland, San Francisco, and beyond. I was recently shocked to learn that more than 3,800 reports of violent acts were recorded by an organization called Stop API Hate. 3,800 violent acts between March 2020 and February 2021. And there were probably many more that were not reported. They included verbal harassment, shunning, civil rights violations, online harassment. When I read about the multiple murders, primarily against women in Atlanta, the acts of violence against senior women in the Bay Area, I became concerned and frightened. I decided to enroll in 1-hour training programs that defines harassment be appropriate. It was sponsored by the American Asians for Justice. I learned there are at least 5 types of interventions, depending on the situation and your personal safety. So if I'm confronted, I have some knowledge to guide me. So what's my story? Well, several times during my adult life, when I was introduced to an immigrant Asian, I was asked, when did your parents immigrate to the States? My grandparents immigrated to Hawaii in 1910. I wonder how many of you have ever been asked that question. I think I last answered it in 2010 because I recall saying, yes, that was more than 100 years ago. I wonder how long your family has been in the United States. When they learned my grandparents immigrated from Korea, a typical follow-up question was, oh, you speak Korean? I do not. Oh, do you have a Korean middle name? I do not. So you see, we may look alike, but we don't speak the same first language. We may look, but probably have very different life experiences, different values, perspectives, religious affiliations, educations, professional experience. We have different cultures. My parents were born and raised in Hawaii as I was. Some demographers identify my maternal family has had 5 generations born in the United States. We are all Americans. I grew up in an area close to 3 military bases, Pearl Harbor, Hickam Air Force Base, and Fort Shafter. In fact, military housing bordered my neighborhood for several miles. From elementary school through high school, I grew up with a mix of mainland-born Caucasians, mostly military dependents, and Hawaii-born Caucasians and people of color. I did not know anyone who was foreign-born. We were all Americans. Recently, as anti-Asian violence increased, my family urged me to stop driving to Southern California, and they encouraged me to carefully select where I traveled in my car, where I shopped. As more acts of violence occurred, my fear increased and my sleep decreased. I decided to change my routine. Now I shop only in well-established stores located in busy shopping areas. I no longer carry a purse. My small wallet sits deep in my left pocket, and my new whistle attached to my key ring is in my right pocket. I peruse the parking lot as I enter and before leaving my car. I've been forced to change my daily routine because I now fear for my personal safety. That I'm a stranger in a foreign land. If I'm harassed in any way and if safety permits, I will stand up and be strong because I belong here. I may feel like a stranger in a foreign land, but this is my country. I am an American first and just happen to be of Asian descent. And I know I am not alone. I am a part of this community, part of the Asian American Philippine Islander community, part of the worldwide community of Christians who have received the promise that the Holy Spirit will guide us and will always be with us. So I'm going to try to remember those final words that Jesus said before his ascension. You will receive the power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you. You will be my witnesses to the ends of the earth. In closing, I'd like to share a prayer from the resurrection sheet. Let our minds rest in your word so that when doubt and grief would overwhelm us, faith will open our eyes to see your hand at work in our life and enable us to turn toward the future, toward each other in perfect charity. Amen.